Yeah, so scoping at the end of the day, like, why is it important to be done? We always say the standard thing when it comes to scoping, in that when you're building a house, you never just go straight to the developer and say, "Cool, build me the house," because you actually don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what your controlling your costs are going to be. There's so many variables that you're just not going to be able to control with that sort of action. And the same thing applies to development, and the same thing has to be done. Scoping is effectively a service where we work with the individual to understand what their needs and wants are, what are their business requirements, what are they trying to achieve, what are their goals, and then we effectively do some requirements gathering, and then what we call a low fidelity wireframe. This is basically a very simple visual representation of what the idea is. What do the screens look like? How would someone experience this application, and how would it achieve the goals that you've outlined? This is much like an architect's drawing for your house. Before you start getting into the very specific sort of technical aspects, he's going to do an illustration of what it is that you're trying to achieve, right? And if you like the sort of concept and the ideas and the direction, and it's kind of satisfying your needs, then it can go into the next level, which is a lot more finite, breaking down each of the requirements into an actual story that describes who the user is, what needs to be achieved, and how will they achieve that? How will they achieve success with what they're going to do? And with that, we can now do a more accurate visual representation or a specific architectural drawing about that thing. And then you do this a couple of times until you get this kind of blueprint, a navigational blueprint. You can kind of click through it. It's just visual. There's no code behind it, but it's just simply visual. And it gives you a real visual representation of what it is that you're trying to achieve and how workable it is. Now, any business, any idea, and we face this all the time, is you get the concept of you're looking to do something, you go out there and you hunt down a developer and you get them to do it. And we've heard the story too many times, sometimes quite shocking in terms of how much money has been spent going down that route. So there's two things I'm going to talk about this. The first is, cool, you find a developer, you start pursuing it, you spend money, and then you find out that it's not satisfying your requirements at all. Now, this is just bad scoping, or no scoping has been done to produce that. And it's been left up to the developer to kind of interpret what your requirements are and kind of execute them. Now, any good product development involves a number of resources. The developer just knows how to code. Then you still need someone who knows how to design the user interface and the experience. They're going to think about these different things that have to be experienced by the user and give their professional insight into what's the best way to achieve that goal. Now, a developer is not trained in that. A developer is trained in coding. He will take a visual representation and he'll convert that to code, but he's not a designer. You know, it's like saying your bricklayer in building your house needs to be your interior designer. I don't think it's going to work. They don't have that skill. They often don't have that talent, and definitely do not have that training. So the separation of roles is very important. Then we also have like a product owner. Product owner is the guy that really sits with you as a client and gathers your requirements and figures out and will ask you questions, challenge you a little bit. But basically, he's trying to translate what's in your head into something that's understandable for the development team, being the designer, the developer, the tester, who else is also involved in the team, right? So when you go out there and hire just a single developer, you're not getting this, and you're going to really struggle to get that whole element of product development actually happening on your idea. So that's the one. The second is scoping is so important because any product development is down to really identifying what is the minimum viable product. What is the minimum set of features that are going to achieve the kind of the next most important business objective? And if you're structuring your product like this, then you're going to, in bite sizes, get to your destination. It's historically very well known, and even statistically very well known, is those companies that have gone about product development and spent 2, 3, 4 years in product development, the product that came out in the end often wasn't meeting their business objectives. Either one, because they overspec'd it, or two, user needs changed, business needs changed. So modern software development has to take an approach of bite-sized chunks, get something released as soon as possible so that you can get user feedback, and then you work on version 2. So these days, you really never want to shoot for version 1 that's 100% of every single feature that you're thinking under the planet. Version 1 should be 20% of the features you're thinking about, or 25%, and it's going to be the most important features that need to be done now to deliver some value. Then you work on version 2, then version 3, version 4, until, who knows, maybe version 10. The objective is that you're investing your money wisely into your releases, not into the whole development from off the bat, right? So a wise investor, anybody who's looking to spend their money, I'm pretty certain will want to spend it in chunks first, instead of spending it one whole amount. So it's a good way for you to validate your idea and your concept without the huge financial investment of the whole scope of the project. So this is really what's important. You've got to shoot for this MVP. So the scoping is done to achieve that first objective. And everything what we deliver ultimately is defined in that particular part. And every single release that you're going to do is going to have a scoping session. It's going to have some visuals representation. It's going to go through the same cycle every single time. Not everyone does this next step, but what a scoping also provides you with is a workable prototype, at least in terms of visual illustrations, etc. And this gives you the opportunity of testing the idea early. And that's really what you want to do. You want to validate your concept, validate your idea as soon as possible. So by having visual illustrations, you could have a smaller user group, maybe it's a couple of your staff members, and you get them to go through the prototype. They'll click through and kind of gather some basic ideas, and they'll be able to give you some feedback. What's so great about that is any product development is only as valuable as what impact it will make to the user. Will the user use it? And how much of value will it be to them? And the soonest you validate that and know what that is, the more successful the product's going to be and going to satisfy your business objectives. So that early validation process will help to achieve that. Then once you have that, then great. Then you can go into execution, develop the product, and then have first version being released, and then good, it goes to the users. This is basically why scoping is so critically important. It saves you money, it saves you time, and it ultimately gets you to your goals sooner and faster with less financial investment than having to commit the full cycle of your finances into the whole project. And I think it's pretty logical, right? You just don't want to build a house unless you have an architect's drawings. It's really that simple. So that's why scoping is so critically important. And with us, it's the lowest cost product and service offering we provide, and we also provide it at a rate that's the minimum sort of price that we need to offer it at, because we know we can't achieve our objective of developing a product without having this done, but it needs to be done. So it's super, super important. I think it's a valid step to take for any business. Any product that needs to be developed needs to go through a scoping cycle.